What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of the GOOYOW Show. I am, of course, as always, your host, Bob McIntosh, and I am stoked to be here with someone who shares not only my first name, but a number of years of experience and a few other things together. So today's guest is Bob Lachance, who you may or may not have met. I know a lot of you guys have probably seen him speak in an event and or listened to a podcast, or might even be in one of his groups or shows. But Bob, and I don't know how long we've known each other. It's been a hot minute. We've
Long time.
worked together both as speakers, as investors, as borrowers and lenders, and a bunch of other ways. So someone I've known for many, many years. And in the last several years, he's built a company, probably the top company in the world for virtual assistants, specifically for real estate investors. Obviously, he does a lot of other things too, but in that space, I'd say he's probably one of the best out there, if not the best out there. And so I'm excited to, we reconnected just here recently, and I was like, you know what, like it's a new year, it's 2023. People need leads, they need deals, they got these big goals in mind for the whole year. How do we set them up for success? And I think what he has to share and offer is going to help each and every one of you do that. So, Bob, thanks for being on, man. I appreciate having you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been, like you said, it's been a hot minute since we've known each other. It's been a long time, so it's a pleasure, obviously, to see the success that you've had and obviously the people that you've influenced throughout the years. So appreciate you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone who might not know who you are, give us a little background. I know you've done a lot of stuff in real estate for probably even longer than I have, which is saying something because it's been a hot minute for me too.
Yep. Yeah, I played, just to take a 2-second rundown, played professional hockey for 8 years. Then after that, decided to jump in the real estate world and started flipping properties. A lot of people probably know my first business partner, Pat Precourt. Him and I were in the short sale world for a long time. We did, I don't know, over 1,000 short sale transactions through the years. And, during that time, obviously, while we were investing, we started a couple of real estate education programs, which that's where you and I met. And through those years, while flipping properties, it's kind of funny how I started a virtual assistant company. People ask me that all the time. How the heck did you start a VA company? And it was all because, working with students, Bob and I both worked with a lot of different students out there in different realms of obviously real estate, some in the internet, some obviously in the investing side. And I was mostly on the investing side. And, so I was always looking for a service or a product out there that would help our student base, because majority of the students are either working part-time or full-time and had one of the challenges was actually we would give them homework assignments or action items to do in between calls. And what we found and what I noticed is that they weren't getting done because life got in the way, right? They had to go to work. They had to take care of them. And life. They had to, bring their kids to sports, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much stuff that happened. But as we all know, in order to be successful, you have to actually take those steps to accomplish and to get towards any type of goal. So I was always looking for a product or a service out there for years. I mean, we started this in 2007, and then finally 2013, I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was. And I'm like, holy cow, there could be a business here. So a light bulb went on, and since I helped start a couple education programs, the idea was to take the education or the training that we created here for real estate investors and apply it to the virtual assistant world. So in 2014, I launched my first company while investing. Obviously, investing was the first thing I started, and coaching, et cetera. So I started my virtual assistant company in 2014. Fast forward to today, we're at a little over 1,000 virtual assistants. And we have every walk of life in real estate as a real estate professional. If you're an investor, it doesn't matter if you're a wholesaler, rehabber, et cetera, property manager. We have lenders, brokers, et cetera. So, and right now, I don't know if you know this, Bob, as well. I use my virtual assistant company to drive in leads for my real estate business. We did 100 or 200, I think around 240 transactions this past year. And a lot of people don't know that because I don't really talk about it.
And that's huge. Hold on. I want to interrupt just for a second, because this is not, guys, what I want you to take away from this is not, there's too many people out there right now, and I see this constantly, who are like, oh, I did this thing 5 years ago and it crushed it, and now I'm going to teach you how to do it, but they're not doing it right now. like Bob's
Right.
systems that he's using right now literally helped you do, would you say 240 transactions in 2022?
204. Yeah, we built up our real estate team as well, but we use my VA company obviously to drive in leads. And
Right.
you and I talked about this offline. No one has a business unless they actually continuously drive in leads to their business. Nobody, I'll tell you. I mean, you're going to struggle. I can't say nobody, because you could have a struggling business without driving leads by working with other people, but it's going to be very difficult. You have to have consistent lead flow to be successful long-term in this business.
Yeah,
So
100%. And I think that's a huge thing too. Understand, like, this is not just some theory thing. Like, what we're doing right now is working right now. And I would go so far as to say, I assume you're probably even using your virtual assistants to drive in people for virtual assistants.
yeah, we do. Yeah, 100%. We do all of that. And but real estate investing is kind of funny. It's an interesting game, and it's a very, very profitable game. You just have to consistently keep going. And I know that's a 2-second rundown of my story, but I think it's very important. Just like you invest in real estate. I think if somebody has a product or a service, before you invest in it, make sure that they're actually using their product or service in business, because that'll separate the ones that are actually using it and know what works today. Like you said, not yesterday. I no longer just to be transparent, I no longer coach. I no longer do that. I run businesses now and help other businesses, create success of whatever they want to do. It's not on the coaching side, on more of the service side, and
Right.
as a real estate investor.
No, it makes a lot of sense. So let's dive into it, because I think this whole topic of VAs and virtual assistants, it's one that a lot of people, especially if they're newer, like, hear about, but they may not really understand. So
Yep.
give us, like, what's the high level overview? Like, what if I'm a real estate investor, what kinds of things could I theoretically offload to a virtual assistant to do for me? And I've got some more questions in that vein, but let's start there.
You could do it. And I like to identify as what kind of investor are you? Are you a property manager? Are you a wholesaler? Are you a rehabber? Right? Do you need leads? Do you need help with transaction coordinating as a real estate agent? Right? So it all depends on what area of business that you are, because you could really look at this, right? You break your business down into different groups, right? You have kind of branding first, right? You need to get your name out there. So could virtual assistants help with branding? 100%. Could they be posting on all the social medias? 100%. Doing TikTok videos, they could do that as well, right? I personally don't do TikTok videos, but I have my virtual assistants do them for me. You will never see me dancing in a TikTok video. I'm just going to throw that
Come
out there,
on, Bob. I want to see
Not
you
only
shake
can I
that
not
butt. Let's
dance,
go.
not only can I not dance, to be honest with you, but I'm not going to do that. But I have seen individuals do that. I don't know if hopefully my light's not messing up this, but I've seen individuals do that. And the idea is it's branding, right? You're out there all the time. Virtual assistants can take care of that. They could help with, content and posting articles and different types of videos. So that's on the branding side. And then on the marketing side, can they, I'll put marketing and acquisitions kind of close together, right? Because let's use you as a perfect example. Your CRM. You have tools inside your CRM that a lot of other CRMs do not have, right? You have the ability to upload lists, call from it, text from it, and follow up with different types of leads through the system, right? That's a very, very unique system. So I'll just go along with that as an example, right? Virtual assistant can use a list provider like, I don't know, PropStream, right? And download a list, skip trace it, which means get the best possible phone number for that particular record. And then once you have that list, a virtual assistant can upload it into your CRM. Once it's in there, it's still not a lead, right? I don't know how you tag it in your system, but it's still a record. And then the virtual assistant
it's like a contact. It's a point of contact. That's a perfect way to put it. Or
contact. Perfect. So now a virtual assistant can call to gauge seller motivation. Not only call, but they could also text message, which is a huge advantage against the competition, because what happens with a lot of investors, they have all these different tools out there. They'll have a dialer, they'll find out where they're going to get their list, where are they going to put it. Then once they actually get someone on the phone and they're a hot lead, where is it going to go? So within your system, now it gets tagged as a hot lead. So the virtual assistant can be calling, and as soon as there's a hot lead, it gets pushed over where it's going to ring your phone, and whoever your acquisition person is, it could be you, Bob, it could be, one of your users, or, it could be one of your acquisition guys in your office or gals in your office. And then that is a hot lead. So you could use your virtual assistant to do both on the cold calling and the text messaging side. And that part is game changing. Here's why. Can we all do it ourselves? 100%. Will we get burned out? 100%. Right? When I first started investing, ask me how I know. I door knocked for a year straight from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every single day with a pre-foreclosure list. So Pat would give me a pre-foreclosure list. I'd jump in my car and I would door knock, right? And then when I get home, I would actually take that number or take that address and that name, and I would skip trace it. And I would call till about 7 o'clock at night. So that beat you up until I finally found another door knocker and I placed them in there and I started negotiating with banks, etc. But it's the same concept. Fast forward to what we're talking about here. You will burn out if you don't get someone to do this. Not only that, let's say there is a lone wolf, right? Let's say you're a solopreneur, you only want to do it yourself. Over time, what's going to happen is you're going to get distracted. Maybe someone asks you to play golf, or maybe it's a mastermind you want to go to. Bob, you're putting on a training, whatever that is, right? And it doesn't allow you to be on the phone that day to call and text. That's a day of lost leads. So VAs can implement this and do this on a daily basis, whether it's 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day. They can consistently do this, because I think that's the most important thing in any business is the consistency. Things get done on a consistent basis. So I think those, if I just had to talk a little bit about, branding, then marketing, and, virtual assistants can also skip trace. They could also run comps. They could also make offers, right? Because if you have it, think about this. If you have a specific buy box, you're a buy and hold investor, and you have a specific buy box, why can't you give that buy box to a virtual assistant? They could blast offers all day long, keep offering. Right. And then when you get feedback from that agent, that's when you get on the phone. So There's a lot of different, obviously transaction coordinating. There's a lot of, communication going back and forth. And then obviously in the property management side, you could go forever, right? We have clients that are Airbnb that are dealing with getting, when there's changeover, getting the cleaners in, because I know that's one of the biggest challenges in the Airbnb world is coordinating all that, because it's on the phone. And property management, lease renewals, leasing, maintenance calls, accounts payables, things like that. We could go on and on and on, but that's kind of just a little bit of overview. I don't know. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody.
This is perfect.
But trying to stay on the line.
No, so I think what we can take away from this is, look, almost every aspect of your business at some point could be outsourced to a virtual assistant. I think that's the key. But I think the most important thing for all of you in this group or listening to this podcast that you can take away is, look, what Bob said is consistency is key, right? You got to be out there. So having someone, even if you're paying just someone for, let's say, part-time hours, so 20 hours a week, right? To dial for you, and so that you're only having to spend your time talking to people who are actually interested, instead of you having to talk to all the ones that don't care at all or don't want to, or are going to tell you to F off or whatever other, choice words that they've got for you, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of that. That's so critical. And one of the big things I heard from a lot of all of you listening to this or watching this at the end of 2022 was, Bob, I need more deals. I need more deals. And right here, this is literally how you start multiplying getting it. So let me ask you a secondary question, because almost always this is the first thing I get when someone tells me, oh, VA, I can't have a VA. They don't speak English, or they're going to sound terrible, or they don't understand what's going on in and for my business or my niche or my whatever. So, obviously, you've got hundreds, if not thousands of VAs at this point in time. So that's clearly not the case. And so talk more about that for us.
All right. So if anyone knows different parts of the country, I live in the Northeast, and the Northeast is very critical, to say the least. And we will not put any choice. Yeah, just a little bit choice words in when someone looks at you like, hey, what the hell's your problem? Like that's the type of people that we deal with here. So if it works in my market, it'll work anywhere. So the point is And not to mention, a lot of people don't know this. All my virtual assistants are in the Philippines, and English is one of the primary languages in the Philippines. When they're the calls, everyone knows this call center world in the Philippines is extremely popular, and a lot of Filipinos work in the call center industry. So they're already, when they're growing up, they know that is a path where they go. So communication is one of the things that they learn in school. English is obviously one of the primary languages. So that barrier of entry and the accent, we do all of that. So on the training side and the recruiting side, we do, 3-point. We do a language proficiency testing. We do all of that. So by the time they get to you, there's a lot of stuff that we handle at the beginning, all the way from recruiting to tests to assessments to training. Only 5% of everyone who gets through our process or all the applications that we do gets through training, which means that we weed out all the individuals that you wouldn't want anyway. So, and I always say this, Bob, you've known me for a long time. I'm very transparent. Anybody could do this on their own, meaning you could go find a VA on your own. I did it on my own at the beginning, but I realized after I went through 50 to 100 applications that I was beat up, and I'm like, oh, this interviewing is it's awful. Like for me, I can't stand interview. Yeah, it's awful. I mean, I'm interviewing even for in-house acquisition people in my real estate office, and in interviewing it's awful, right? So what happened with me is 2013, I went through 50 to 100 applicants. And while sifting through all those applications and interviewing, I hired somebody, then they quit the first week. And I'm like, oh, now I got to rinse and repeat, hours and power and hours gone. Whereas now I'm like, all right, if I could turn this into a business and take care of all that upfront headache, then it'll work out for, myself as a client, you as a client, Bob, et cetera. So, and other people out there. So that's kind of what we do a little bit behind the scenes. And I think that answered your question. Sometimes we go off on a tangent, Bob.
No, this is good. I'm not worried about tangents, right? Like at the end of the day, if it's going too far off, we'll rein it back in. But I think this is good. So understand, yeah, like, hey, like there's, especially with your service, and this is, I think, a huge difference between yours. And I know even when we were working with you, right, you brought us candidates, and all of them, I can tell you right now, every single one of them spoke clearly in English, understood things that, there was no communication barrier at all there. And I think that's a huge misconception that a lot of people have. Now, this is not to say that those communication barriers don't exist at all. They certainly do. But if you find the right partner that handles that, so that, like you said, you're filtering out 95% of the people that you're going to have those communication issues with, it makes your life significantly easier. And I would say, look, if you're already considering getting a virtual assistant or you're thinking about it, right? Well, then the reality is in your life, you probably needed one more than you even thought about if you're thinking about it now. In which case, why, like, your time is probably already very precious and you don't have a ton to spend on things like this. So why not let someone take the heavy lifting off your plate? Just let you be the most efficient you possibly can.
Yep. And then, Bob, one of the things that a lot of people need to realize that, if you're going to hire, I mean, look at every state's a little different, but minimum wage keeps going up and going up and going up in every different state. So if you're going to hire someone in your own market, if you're going to look to try to get someone for $10 or $11 an hour, good luck. In a lot of states, I'm saying, Connecticut, I can't find anybody for $11 that I would want on the phones or I would want driving me leads, right? I used to have a used appliance company. I couldn't get a cleaner for $12, for $13. And these are, individuals that do not have a 4-year college education, and all our virtual assistants do. So it's kind of, you start looking at that. Look, and like I said, every market's different, but as minimum wage keeps going up, that means you're going to have a very, very difficult time not paying $20+ an hour for someone who is, qualified in your eyes.
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask you this then, because the next thing that I hear a lot, and my own experiences of hiring, I mean, shoot, at this point, I've hired hundreds of VAs over the years that I've been doing this. what would you say? Because the real estate investing niche is very unique, and I want to quantify this because one of the things that I found, especially when I started trying to hire VAs in our real estate business, is like, oh yeah, I know real estate, right? And they were much more on the agent side, which is
Yep.
fine. Like obviously they have a lot of knowledge there, but what agents do and what they need is often very different than what investors need. So how does like what your VAs differ from the investing experience versus
Mhm.
agent experience versus just a VA who says, "Yeah, I can cold call people."
Yep. So we train them. I mean, we have specific scripts as well. Like we train them on cold calling. We train them on overcoming objections, how to text, how to respond, how to build buyers lists. So we have a whole training platform. We train them for about a month. And what we train them on are things that I use in my own business. You know, I think it's like I said, and you said this perfectly. You know, we're not training them on stuff that worked 10 years ago. We're training them stuff that I actually do in my business today that's worthwhile, because if I do a great job training, then I'll have a client for life, right? And I'll have a virtual assistant that's going to do a fantastic job for that one client. That client stays with us, and there's nothing better than referral business in any, you know, it doesn't matter what type of business it is. Someone who comes in as a referral is going to be one of the best clients you're going to have, because you know it's word of mouth. Like, Bob, if I'm gonna use your service and you're gonna use my service, and I love your service, I'm gonna be, I think, Seth, what is it, Seth Gogan? Is that his name? He's called
Seth
Purple
Godin,
Cow,
yeah.
sneezing. Yeah,
Yep.
sneezing all over the place, and like, but that's a positive sneeze, saying, "Oh, I love, you know, I love
These days we don't
your
know anymore.
CRM." Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, so that's a way you got to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a huge thing that people need to understand too. Is look like, hey, the real estate space is specific, and having someone who knows how to handle that specific space is going to be value. Again, it's not that you can't go train them because you certainly could. It's not that you can't find someone
Yep.
who can be trained because you certainly can. I think the biggest thing, you know, like I look at like 2023 like this. For me, it's been interesting, right? Because I spent the last 2 3 weeks of December in 2022 going, well, what do I want 2023 to look like? What does it need to be? And not necessarily in the specific tactics, but just from a strategy. And like, we're all busy, right? Like we're all trying to do more with less at the end of the day. And so efficiency becomes a huge
Mhm.
component. And I think, especially as a new investor, or even one who's in moderate levels, and probably even those who are, seasoned. At the end of the day, we look at all the different hats that we have to wear, and if efficiency becomes important, and we talk about this all the time when we were coaching and training on stages,
Mhm.
which is what are the revenue generating activities? What's actually going to make the most? Where is your time best spent? And then usually that's going to be talking to actual leads, people who are actually interested in selling, people who are actually wanting to work with you, buyers who are actually going to buy properties from you, lenders who are actually going to lend money to
Yep.
you. Like this kind of way is going to be, I think, the most important thing. And so freeing up that time is going to be huge. What I want to ask you now is a slightly different direction. So let's say that I'm an investor right now, and I'm like, okay, Bob, I love it. I like the idea of getting a VA, whether it's from you or wherever. But let's just say I'm going to come to you to get a VA. You know, where do I need to be, or what do I need to have prepared to set up a virtual assistant, whether it's from you or not, but to
Yep.
set up any virtual assistant for success, so that when they plug in, I know that I'm ready to handle someone like that.
Yep. Yep. I would definitely. So you need to be crystal clear what you want your virtual assistant to do. If it's to drive leads, right? Let's pick an avenue of them driving leads. Are you going to cold call to drive leads? Are you going to text message to drive leads? Are you going to set up direct mail campaigns, right, to drive leads? Those are, I mean, you have other lead sources as well, that online lead sources is, on that side of it. But my point is, be crystal clear on what you want that virtual assistant to do. If you want them to drive leads, let's focus and set up a system and process to drive leads. And it's very, very simple. Like we said, you get a list, skip trace it, and virtual assistant could do this for you. Download a list, skip trace it, get those numbers, upload it into a dialer, start dialing. Once they get somebody who's hot, then they fill out a web form, boom, it goes right into your CRM. Or if you want to email it to you, it could go right to your email. And then as soon as you get that lead, you're going to pick up the phone and call them. It's
Right.
that simple. Same thing with text messaging. So I would focus and be crystal clear on that. And that was very easy to map out.
Right. And okay, perfect. So I got to be crystal clear on what I want. Now, if I'm going to someone like you and they've got all this training, do I need to have training on on my own stuff that I'm doing, or can
Yeah.
I plug them in and train as I go? Like, I'm thinking about it this as like, hey, if I want to plug someone in, okay, I'm crystal clear on what I want them to do. What do I need to
Yep.
have for them so that they can? And again, for all of you listening or watching, right? Like, I want you to think about these questions because whether you're hiring a virtual assistant, a local employee, or anybody, right? If you haven't thought this stuff through, you're not setting that person up for success.
Yep.
And look, we don't have time to waste for people who are not going to be successful for us. So,
Yeah.
Ralph, do I need to have training details for them or what?
Yeah, and it's the same. I always like to say it's the 80-20 rule, but you nailed it. It doesn't matter if you're hiring someone in-house or outside, because here's what it is. We train your virtual assistant for a month straight, right? But it's like the 80-20 rule. My business is a little different than your business, is a little different than your business. So you may have a dialer that you like using, right? That is different than what a virtual assistant used prior, right? Same thing. If you hire an employee in-house, and they've never used an example like smartphone, which they just pick up the phone and call, like all your leads are inside a CRM. Your dialer is a little different than another dialer, Bob. So
Right.
so we just would have to tweak and train. It would be a 10-minute video to train them on how to use that specific dialer, whether it's Ring Central or Mojo or Call Tools, right? They're just a little bit different, but in essence, it's a dialer. So you just got to train them on that particular phone system as an example, but very, very easy. Just do a 10-minute video, send it to us, and our team can help train them.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so let's say we got crystal clear on what it is. We've got whatever training videos that we need to have, or we can know that we can make those. So I guess the next question that I would have is, all right, well, how many hours do I need from someone? How do I gauge? Do I need someone for 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours? Do I
Yep.
need two people? How do I figure out what do I actually need?
So we have an admissions team too that'll get on the phone and help you walk through that. Here's what I always advise: start with one, right? When I have some individuals come to us be like, "Oh, Bob, I want 5." I'm like, "Hold on, let's start with one." And obviously, it benefits me as a service provider if somebody started with 5 virtual assistants. But here's the way I look at it: everybody has their own systems and processes. And we have a management team that we have one manager that manages our client and VA relationship as well, on top of just having your VA. So that's another benefit. So what I would do is I would just sit down, look at your business and say, all right, here's exactly what we need to do to get started. Let's start first here, then we'll build on it, right? Because, it's a lot of individuals are very gung-ho. Hey, I need 5, or I need 3, I need 2. Well, let's start here first. I mean, Bob, you and I have worked with tens of thousands of students, that it's very important for us to make sure that people are successful. I mean, that's the end result. If you're saying, I said this before, if you're successful, we're successful in the end as a service provider. So I think it's really important, and always beware if somebody's, pushing something down, trying to push something, in your face. Just be careful. Just be aware of that in general, right? In life. And the reason why I go there is because I lost a lot of money in 2005 on a can't miss knockdown rebuild in Greenwich, Connecticut, where my money had to go hard or I was going to lose the deal of a lifetime. And we lost 150 grand in a matter of one day. So do not do that. That for people who have that same experience, that stuff kind of hardens you and allow you to give back to everybody on this call to say, hey, don't do that. Just take a step back. There's never a can't miss deal. Like that's not true. So anyway, I answered your question, but I kind of went off on a different story there.
Good. I always say beware of the investor who says they've never lost, because if they're either lying or they're not experienced enough, because we all have at some point in time, right?
Yeah, and it's okay. You learn from it.
100%. Yeah. So that mistake is how you learn and grow. I mean, look, like even in the world of VAs, I think out of my first 10 VAs I ever hired, I think maybe 6 worked out. The other 4 were just terrible mistake, because I just didn't know any better. Like that was back in, I think the first one I hired was like 2012 maybe. So I was like, I didn't even know what I didn't know at that point in time, let alone how to figure it out. So, okay. So this is all perfect. And guys, if you're, again, listening or watching this, the whole point of this interview is I was like, hey, I know that we all have big plans for this year, and this is one of many ways that we can achieve those plans, achieve those goals, get after it. And so my goal as, your host of this show, if you're trusted your time to listen to this, is to say, let me go out and find the best that I can for you and doing the stuff to help you achieve your goals, because that's the most important thing. So Bob, first and foremost, thank you for your time. I appreciate you being on. Where can people go check out your service and you if they want to follow you or get in contact to get a VA?
Yeah, you can check us out online. Obviously, it's REVA Global, REVA Global.com. If you have any questions, you could directly send it to myself or our missions team. My email is bob@revaglobal.com, REVAglobal.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all those kind of good places.
You got virtual assistants making sure that you are.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Every time you post an article, I get a text. Wow, great article. I'm like, well, what are you talking about?
Sure.
We got our team. Yeah, like fantastic. But again, that's the importance of having a great team. And like you said, 2023. I'm including myself. We're only as good as our team, right? If you bring on great team members, you will have a successful 2023, and you'll separate yourself from everyone else. Where, I look at it a little different. I'm going all in. Like for me on the real estate investing side, I'm looking at growing this year, and we're adding in acquisition individuals, another dispo person, got transaction coordinators, et cetera. So we're looking to grow. And I think it's the same for the individuals that are watching your show. You got to start building your teams, because, it's time, efficiency, and scale are the only way to do it if you really want to continue to go this trajectory in real estate investing.
Yeah. And guys, I just want to hammer this home one more time. He did 240 transactions in 2022. That's a year that most people were walking around going, I can't find deals. Yep. And yet somehow, I can't imagine how he managed to find 240 deals or transactions to convert in 1 year. And so I think that, obviously this stuff works, just a matter of execution and the right stuff. So as always, everybody, thank you for being on. Thank you for your time. If you're watching this live in the Facebook group, drop a comment and just say hello. Let me know that you're checked in. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you for hopping on. If you're not part of the Facebook group, make sure you join. The link will be inside of the show notes on whatever platform that you're listening on. And as always, I ask for just one small payment. As you know, I've stolen this idea from Andy Frisella, but hey, if this helped you, if you love this, if you thought this was useful for you, share it with a friend. That's the only payment that I ask, nothing else. And I also just want to say thank you for your time. I have a lot of gratitude for each and every one of you who come on and watch these shows, listen to this podcast, and just participate, because guess what? As much as I enjoy doing this stuff, I love getting to reconnect with people like Bob. We haven't talked in a while. It's awesome. It's also about helping all of you do better in your businesses, and that's why we're here. So Bob, thank you again for being on. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Bob.
Everybody else, we'll see you again on another show next week. Take it easy and have a great 2023.